Hello and welcome to Impact the Borough, a podcast from the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce. I'm Brent Christensen, the President and CEO of the Chamber. Each week we'll highlight what we're doing to start and grow businesses, create quality jobs, and develop our workforce. We'll also check in with our community partners to share inspiring stories and important information from across our community. This podcast is brought to you by Trulian Federal Credit Union, a modern, mission-driven financial institution focused on the needs of its members, the businesses it serves, and our community. With 5 locations in Guilford County, including a dedicated commercial lending office at Friendly Center and a highly rated mobile banking app, Truliant makes it their business to help you grow yours. Visit Truliant.org for more information.
Hi, I'm Nikita Green, Vice President of Leadership, Diversity, and Inclusion here at the Greensboro Chamber. One of the things I get to do is run the Leadership Greensboro program. I've been doing that for the last 4 years, and it's been an exciting experience. If you don't know, Leadership Greensboro is a really unique 3-part leadership development program here at the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce. It includes education, it includes content from the Center for Creative Leadership, and it's an overall immersive experience in the city of Greensboro. Our program days meet each month, and they consist of experiences, lectures, panels, discussion groups, and a number of hands-on experiences that teach our participants not only how to work together, but to do so to make our community a better place to live. So I'm joined today by the 2021 program chairs, Kelly York, Marcus Thomas, and Jasmine Beard. We have one other program chair, Garrett Bean, as well, who's not able to be with us today. They are just wrapping up this exciting year, this really unique year, as they led the 2021 class. They are themselves the alum of the 2020 class that they consider the greatest of all time with Leadership Greensboro. So I will let them tell you a little bit more about that. But really quickly, if you guys wouldn't mind just introducing yourselves, tell us what you do and where you work. Marcus, you want to start?
Absolutely. Greetings, everyone. My name is Marcus Thomas, and I serve as Dream Team Director at Mount Zion Greensboro. I also do some work with the Volunteer Center and the Triad as their development specialist. And I'm just grateful to be here and discuss this wonderful professional development program with the rest of the crew.
Thank you, Marcus. Kelly, and then Jasmine.
Hello, I'm Kelly York. I am the Director of Resource Development with Smith Leonard. We are an accounting firm based in the Triad with 3 offices. And really what I do as Director of Resource Development is I get to go out in the marketplace and help Smith Leonard tell their story. I do that through marketing, through recruiting, and business development, and my favorite part of it, which is community relations. And so it's been really exciting to extend that into our partnership with Leadership Greensboro. So look forward to chatting more with y'all today.
Greetings, everyone. I'm Jasmine Beard, Chief Strategy Consultant for Ajoy Consulting. And what we do is we help companies improve their productivity and enhance their customer experience with the people-centric approach. And we do this with strategic planning and primarily project management services. I also like to consider myself a social entrepreneur, given my deep investment in the community through various nonprofit boards.
Awesome, thank you. So you can see that these leaders who are with me today are quite impressive and quite involved in the community in a number of different ways. You all have just finished, or almost finished, I should say, what has been really 2 years for you of Leadership Greensboro. Initially, you were participants immersed in the community through our program days. And for the last 9 months, you've led the 2021 class as program chairs. Our program chairs not only lead the current class, they also lead their fellow alum in planning the program content for the year. So it's been a unique experience. You all finished your program year with a virtual graduation, though it didn't start that way, thanks to the pandemic. You've also led the 2021 class in a really unique hybrid experience in the past several months. Can you tell us, anyone, how has this year been for you as program chairs?
I'll say for me, it's been interesting because due to the pandemic, we didn't have the chance to really meet the 2021 class in person and really connect with them like the program chairs for our year did with us. So having been be more intentional with reaching out to them and just trying to get to know them. But however, no fault of our own. It's just a new world that we're living in. And so we, like everybody, and I hate to use this word because I feel like this word's been overused during this pandemic, but we've had to pivot and, and figure out, how to continue to stay connected to everyone and continue to make sure that their experience was just as enjoyable as ours was.
I think piggybacking on what Marcus said too, one of my words has been being deliberate and really trying to think about how can we make those connections and how can we create a world-class experience that allows them to still get the best out of LG. And we really don't know anything else as program chairs. I mean, we only know the year we were presented, and they only know the year they were presented as classmates for this year. And so what are those ways that we can be deliberate in making connections? And I think about on the first day, reaching out with someone because someone made a side joke that tied back to a Hamilton reference. And I made a connection with someone with that. And we chatted something Hamilton related probably every time throughout the class year, and had coffee this morning with another classmate. And so just trying to do those things that bring out personalities, that draw out connections, and harder to do over the virtual space. But I'm excited when we have had those moments of getting together to see that I think it's worked, because you can still see these groups forming and people coming alive and making connections, which has been really cool to watch.
How about you, Jasmine?
For me, I think the year, I echo the sentiment of Marcus and Kelly, but I also think about the word glue. We serve as a liaison between them, the community, between you, and just between their cohorts themselves, especially given the fact that it's so easy to be disconnected in a virtual world in Zoom. We already, there's already this phenomena of communication face to face with the prominence of social media. So as a program chair, we have to think of ways of how can we be that consistent glue when we feel like the class is getting Zoom fatigue, or when we feel like, the program days could, to make sure that it's not repetitive of the same format, and how do we bring them back in and keep them connected, keep them engaged. So I think the word that comes to mind for me this year is just being that glue to keep everything kind of held and stuck together, and make sure pieces don't start falling apart, because everybody is still, everything is new every day. And now that things are starting to open back up, we're not going back to where it was before. We're going into something new. And as things begin to pick up, we're still making sure that we're holding grace with everybody's new reality, but still and being the glue for our own lives and ourselves as program chairs. So that's kind of where my head is with kind of reflecting upon being a program chair in this cohort.
Well, and I would say you guys have done an amazing job at doing that too. You've definitely been the glue, and certainly for me in particular, you've definitely been very deliberate. You have been very connected as well throughout, and you've just had outstanding leadership. I couldn't think of for better people to have done this really unique year with. So I appreciate that for sure. What have you learned? Because we've all stretched even more. There's a natural part of it, I think, with being a program chair, making that shift. But as we've said, you've done it in a new way this year. So what's been your biggest learning over the past 2 years in Leadership Greensboro? What's been the biggest learning about yourself, and especially as program chairs. I want to start with you, Marcus.
I'd say for me, it's just learning that my creative capacity from a leadership standpoint, I have definitely more room to grow in that area. Because one thing I definitely believe that the pandemic has taught all of us is that we've had to get creative in our ways of doing things. Because doing things the way we've done them in the past, it may not always transition to where we're going. And so just really trying to stay creative in the ways that I lead and just in the way that I communicate, and in the way that I structure things, has definitely been a lesson that I've learned over these last 2 years.
Awesome. Kelly, you want to add to that?
Sure. I think for me, it's not underestimating yourself, and it's seeing in yourself what other people see in you. You know, I know in some ways that I'm an organized person, but yet I feel like I get called out for being that within this group. And it's not something I think about because it's something I just do. And I think for most leaders, what they're best at that stands out to other people is so inherent and second nature to them that you don't necessarily think you're special or that it's necessarily a strength. And so it's been fun for me to be able to see what some of my leadership capabilities are through other people's eyes. And honestly, when you called and told me that I was nominated to do this, I didn't think I was going to be one of them, and was pleasantly surprised. And I just, from that standpoint, I think it's really nice to be able to reflect a little bit on how other people see you and how you maybe can inspire or model behavior for others, just as you're then trying to flip that mirror around for them too, and show them where their strengths lie that may feel like second nature, and they may not even realize how special they are or where they bring such value to a group.
You really hit on something there, I think, that is really just the value of connection. It's the importance of being a part of a community, is that the community then is the mirror for you, and you get to kind of see through other people's eyes some important things about yourself. Jasmine, would you like to add to that? What have you learned about Jasmine?
So I definitely echo Kelly's sentiment, Marcus as well. Getting creative, definitely with time management for me, having to be even more creative with time management with Kelly, not, you know, realizing and acknowledging how people view you and realizing that's reality, regardless of how contagious the imposter syndrome can be. But at the end of the day, I would also say boundary setting for me it has been a big one. And then continuing to appreciate showing up as my whole self, right, wrong, indifferent, positive, adversary, or what have you. Always maintaining that authenticity and showing up as the human that you are, and realizing you can take off your cape and it's totally okay. That's something that I felt like has stuck with me over the past 2 years. And I think that humanness has allowed me to forge even better and deeper bonds with some of my cohort from 2020, as well as even some of the new ones from 2021. And I would also say that, like I said, forging the bonds, setting boundaries is a big thing because, one, as you can imagine, our project extended beyond graduation. The project that we were working on from the 2020 cohort. And I loved that. And then I started seeing that I was joining other things. Oh, I love this cause and I want to help this and help that. And it's like, you know what? You've got to sit down and you've got to learn how to say no or not right now. So, I think I got the savior bug from that project and had to learn, like, you can't do everything. I mean, you can, but just not all at the same time. So that was probably a long-winded answer, but
I feel like Marcus can relate to that. It's okay to say no sometimes. But it is.
Never heard of that word before.
And see, if y'all knew me 10 years ago, you would have met the girl that couldn't say no either. That was a lot of deliberate work to get there.
Yeah, it's work every day.
So we know now that's a really important part of leadership development for sure, is learning that to push that lever, and take off the cape, as Jasmine said. So Jasmine, let's stick with you for a second. As I mentioned, so Leadership Greensboro is a 9-month program. And as a part of what we do, we meet monthly for themed program days. So Jasmine, tell us, how would you describe a program day to someone who hasn't been in Leadership Greensboro before?
I would say, as you mentioned before, a day of immersion. Being a Greensboro native, born and raised, definitely, like I said, a day of immersion, but also, different activities that are impactful, and a day of, intentional enlightenment. And I say that because there were things that all my life I've lived, this has been home base, but there are still a lot of things that I learned in the process throughout the program days last year and even this year. And even though we have experienced some similar speakers from last year, not many repeat speakers, but the ones that we did, each time I encountered them, I still learned something new. So, yeah, I would say, each program day, I'm grateful that I participate because you learn even more about ways that you can get involved, ways to activate yourself, activate your life as a active or contributing citizen to your community and just to society as a whole.
Yeah. And I'll say that one of my favorite things is to, when I'm talking to alum, is to hear from them what their favorite program day was, or even their favorite experience on a program day. So I have to ask you guys, I'd love to hear from all of you. Maybe Kelly, if you want to start, what was your favorite program day?
Sure. Well, I love that the program days all have a theme. I think that really helps center you as you go into the day. And so my answer is different depending on whether you're asking me as a participant or a program chair. And I love the fact that we're able to go back and relive all that in a totally different way with new eyes with the new class. But for me, my favorite day was when we did Camp Weaver, one of our first days. It was orientation, brand new, and we were trying to get to know everybody, but there were so many opportunities for networking and team building, and you were out of your comfort zone and you're going across a rope course and holding on to people, which is so funny to think of in COVID times now. But back in early 2019, it was fine, and it was just something where, I mean, to Jasmine's point, you had to be vulnerable. You had to let your guard down, and so I think it allowed those connections to come so much faster. And so for me, that was my favorite day. And if I close my eyes and think about our program year, that's probably the first memory that always comes to mind. As a program chair, particularly given all that's going on and has been going on in our world, I love this year's Diversity and Inclusion Day. Mm-hmm. I thought it was fantastic. And just, we looked at it from a different lens, focusing on a concept called segregated by design. And I have used that in Sunday school groups and in an anti-racism book study. And I think that lens just opened up so many eyes and brought so much new information. And yes, we were virtual, but I think it was so impactful. And the message that was brought forth really transcended whether you were virtual or not. And so for me, I think that's the day for this 2021 class that I think of the most.
Awesome. Thank you. What about you, Marcus?
I say for me, my favorite was probably the Center of Creative Leadership. That was my favorite day back in 2020 for many reasons. If you've never been there, you have to see their campus because it's beautiful. Just the programs and information that they offered to us was just exceptional. We had the greatest teachers for the 3 days we were there. And so for me, it was more so just learning about just leading for organizational impact, being resilient in my leadership skills, and just trying to just really maximize my leadership potential. Those are the biggest things that I've got from my time over at CCL, and I just really just enjoyed those days. The food is phenomenal. If you've never ate at CCL, they have the best cafeteria in the Triad, in my personal opinion. And just it's a wealth of knowledge, the book stories, get any book that you can think of in regards to leadership. So I really enjoy those our days over there, and I would just encourage anybody, if you've never been to the Center for Creative Leadership, if you can find a way to get over there, definitely go check it out.
I feel you on the food, right?
Yes.
I think Marcus
Jasmine.
also liked his table mate too, right?
I did have the greatest tables.
Yeah.
The table mates. I had the greatest ones out of the entire class. I loved the rest of our class, but we had the best table.
The leaders were born at that table, right?
I tell you.
That's right.
Jasmine, what would you say? What was your favorite?
Um, I would say it was a tough decision between the Center for Creative Leadership and the I think it was our nonprofit day, if I'm not mistaken,
Mm-hmm.
where we got to choose or hear about the different projects. And so I would say Center for Creative Leadership, under the fact that it allowed us to go even deeper with our cohort and the different leadership exercises, that was really impactful for me. And you get to learn about how they think, and just from their standpoint, and the industries and the in the environments that they work in. But if I would say overall, I would choose the nonprofit day, probably because of the opportunity to really do some immediate hands-on work, putting the knowledge, your experience into action real time and immediately. And then having to have a result yielded from that work and time invested. So I know I chose two, I cheated, but I'll pick one to say nonprofit day.
Okay. And I do appreciate kind of the diversity of your perspectives on that as well. That's kind of the beauty of it, is that that you all get something a little different from the experience. Marcus, you touched on a part of the Leadership Greensboro experience that has been just game changer for us. One of the things one of the components of the program that we've been very fortunate to add to Leadership Greensboro is our partnership with the Center for Creative Leadership. So that began with the 2017 class. And as a part of what they do in the program now, all of our classes are able to have a really immersive experience as well with the Center for Creative Leadership, learning the foundations of leadership, assessing themselves and understanding themselves as an individual leader, and as well as understanding their relationship to the whole organization. So it is, as Marcus said, a phenomenal experience. I know you've touched on this a bit, Marcus, can you tell us, how have you seen that, what you've learned at the Center for Creative Leadership, how have you seen that carry into what you do at your job?
Yeah, I've not only seen it carry into what I do in my job, but also at home as well. When I went into the Center for Creative Leadership, I was really looking for them to really teach me, basically just how to be a better leader, in my workplace. But when I left there, I took things away that allowed me to even be a better leader at home as a husband and as a father, as well. So I've been able to use the information that they was given in every aspect of my life. But just really just understanding the importance of getting proper rest. That was one of the biggest things that I took from CCL, was just the importance of proper rest, eating right, exercising, meditating, and because how all those things really tie into your leadership capabilities. And just being flexible in my leadership, and just being able to hold people accountable as well. So those are some of the things that I've definitely been able to take from there. And it's just really just helped me out in every aspect of my life. And I've seen myself grow as a leader. I've seen myself just stretch further as well as a leader. And I've just continuously to, look back at the books that they gave us, the tools and everything. I still have my my CCL bag that they gave us with all the books and everything right here in my office. So I have the ability to definitely reference back to the notes that I took and just the manuals that they gave to us, that's going to definitely help me for the years to come.
That's fantastic to hear, and I would have to echo too your earlier comment that, if people have this opportunity to take advantage of the Center for Creative Leadership right here in our backyard in Greensboro, we should definitely do that. And you get to do that, right here in Langston, Greensboro. So,
That's right.
but thank you for sharing that, Marcus. Jasmine, you also brought up something that is a key component of the program. You touched on Nonprofit Day, where you also got to hear about the projects that were available to your class for the upcoming year. So your class completed these action learning projects in small teams, and you were partnered with local nonprofit organizations. Your team had a particularly exciting project that has carried on beyond your class, and you've been able to lead that effort with along with the nonprofit that you were working with. So can you tell us about this exciting project that your team worked on and you are continuing to work on?
Yes, absolutely. So our project was, or the nonprofit was Greensboro Housing Coalition, and they help address the crises for affordable housing, facilitate relationships between the tenants and the landlords, as well as help with severely needed home repairs. And advocate on the tenants that reside in affordable housing, as well with certain issues that they navigate in Greensboro. So our project was to help them learn, I guess, to help them be more efficient. It was very ambiguous. It seems like I gravitate towards those projects because you get the opportunity to really shape the vision. But it was very ambiguous in our scope. And throughout working with my team, we did a lot of research and fact finding and collaborating with their leadership team. After doing a Pareto analysis, we found that 80% of a lot of their issues are due to lack of tenant education, as well and knowledge around what their responsibilities are as a tenant, and then also not knowing that they do have the option and right to not sign a lease prior to repairs being done. And unfortunately, these underserved individuals are often pressured into signing a lease prematurely, just because many of these landlords are aware that they don't have other options, or they know that they have a limited amount of time. And if you've been judicially experienced or incarcerated, that option list is even shorter. So long story short, we did the presentation to look at like a citywide campaign and some handbooks and different stationery or brochures to create to educate them, and in different workshop games that they can play. We even created like a deck of cards flashcards for them to use for education materials and a tenant commandment handbooks. And so we, at the last 30 days right before graduation and before our project was due, we were talking, and I said, well, what about if we come up with an app? And, the team was a little skeptical. And then there were two of us that were like, yeah, we should do this. And I think Erin was like on the fence. And she's like, oh, that sounds exciting, but I don't know how we could pull that off. So we worked our magic, and within that time frame, we were able to recruit 2 developers from GTCC with the help of Campus Greensboro. And then we also were able to recruit a student from UNCG that spent some time with us, and we worked together to get it done. Todd and Erin helped with some graphics and things, and I was able to help kind of solidify the vision, and we were able to convince and gain the buy-in of Josie Williams, their new executive director, which was the tricky part because she was actually transitioning into into her role as the new executive director. So we were praying that she would be on board with going in that direction. And we were hoping that she'd say yes, but she's like, well, when and how soon? So thankfully it worked out. We were able to get something, a prototype done for graduation. And then one of the conditions for buy-in from the developers, just as well as with myself to continue, it's like, we want to see this come to reality. Let's not stop here at a prototype. Let's make this a reality so that we can use this and provide the impact that it's intended to yield. So now, almost a year, 12 months later, we're still creeping right up on launch. And so I'll be happy to share those details when they come about. But we did just debut the video and the trailer at their affordable, the affordable housing, the housing summit that they have every year, which is a national event. So the exciting part is that thanks to Leadership Greensboro, we have a innovative and pioneering product and service that we can provide to the affordable housing community that will also change the way that inspections can and will be done in the future. Based on what Josie Williams said, that no one else in the country or no other affordable housing project entity is doing anything like this right now.
Yeah.
So thank you for allowing us that opportunity.
Oh my gosh! Thank you and your team for having this innovation, being willing to carry it out, and for you in particular to to be willing to stay on board here a year later to see this project all the way through. There's just so much collaboration that's going on even outside of Leadership Greensboro to make this happen. But it all couldn't have happened without vision and a willingness to lead. So just so impressed with what you all have done. And it's really in line with some of the big projects that Leadership Greensboro has done in the past. We've had a team that created the Teacher Supply Warehouse. We had a team that developed the concept and for the Greensboro Children's Museum. We had a team that went out and looked at what other cities were doing and brought back an idea, and it led to the development of the Guilford Nonprofit Consortium. And so what your team is doing with housing will have such a lasting impact on the community, and not just as it relates to housing. It'll also impact health, which will impact workforce development or impact education. So it's phenomenal. And it's exactly what Leadership Greensboro does. I'm super excited to see this legacy really continue through you. So I think what we've talked about is a number of reasons why people would even want to be a part of Leadership Greensboro. But I'd love to find out from you, Kelly. You work at Smith Leonard. And you work in resource development. So I think it's perfect to ask you this question. When employers are looking at resources and they're looking at, potential investments in their employees, what would you tell an employer who's weighing whether or not to invest in an employee specifically for Leadership Greensboro? Like how has it been valuable for Smith Leonard? Has it been, how have they seen that impact with employees? What would you tell an employer who's considering it?
The first thing I would say is don't hesitate. I think it's a wonderful program. I'm a huge proponent, and I really look at it from a lot of different areas. I enjoyed it myself, participating for sure, but I think if you just look at from a recruiting perspective, keeping people at your companies, you have to do more than just deliver a nice job or appropriate compensation. You have to get them engaged and connected in the community. And so if you're looking at a return on an investment, it's not merely just whatever the cost of Leadership Greensboro is. It's that exponential return of someone that cares, someone that's connected, someone that's willing to invest in the community in a different way, and thereby hopefully investing in the company with which they work and staying there and continuing to grow and wanting things to be better and wanting the schools to be better for their children and for their coworkers to hopefully recruit more people to come to the area. And so if you're just looking at it even from a recruiting perspective, I think it's so valuable. And then you look from what does that internal development look like, and where could you go and find a program that would allow you to take advantage of all the Center for Creative Leadership has to offer and all that immersive knowledge. And then not to mention the networking, the team building, I know with our class, I know the class we've just had, there are business dealings that are going on. There are contacts that are being made. There are new partnerships being forged. And so I think the possibilities are really endless. And the biggest piece for me with a lot of things is just you get out what you put in. And so to allow someone to really put their full selves in the program, they have to have an employer that's behind them 100%. That allows them the time to flex off and to be engaged and to come back and talk about what they've learned and to share it with others. I know particularly those of us that really got a lot out of the Center for Creative Leadership, we were hungry to come back and change the world the next day. And so you need to have a management team, a leadership team that hears it, that understands it. And that's something I think too that's so cool about Leadership Greensboro is it creates this bond. Certainly you have it within your class, but I'm finding people that did Leadership Greensboro in the 90s, if they find out you're a current leadership participant or a Leadership Greensboro recent graduate, you're in the family. You know, you've come into the fold. And so just like you would leverage an alumni relationship to try to get a job or to maybe get a mentor situation or have a connection, I think Leadership Greensboro absolutely creates that same environment. And so again, I circle back to don't hesitate because I think really there could just be returns on investment that we don't even know exist yet. It's all about what somebody puts into it and the kind of impact they can make for both their career and their community.
Thank you, Kelly. I certainly agree with you for sure. There is impact that we that we don't even see. There's so much that we see that comes from this experience, but even that ball continues to roll down the hill. And so yeah, it certainly gathers quite a bit more moss, and we just we don't know how much bigger it can be. I will say, I think the unique thing too is that while you may be connected to people who are in accounting that are also in that industry. One of the cool things is that in Leadership Greensboro, there is a diversity of companies and industries represented. So that network extends beyond your own industry or even your own university. From that particular program that you were in, that connection extends to so many different industries, which is really cool. So I wanted to find out from you all of you, why do you think someone else should apply for Leadership Greensboro? Again, if they're on the fence and they're looking at, what's the big deal about this Leadership Greensboro thing? What would you tell someone who's considering applying to Leadership Greensboro? Let's start with you, Marcus.
I'd say if anybody is really interested in investing in their growth professionally and personally in leadership in leadership development, that this would be the perfect opportunity for them to apply for such a tremendous and exceptional program. To, as Kelly stated earlier, where you can network. And Kelly, you took the thought exactly, out of my head because I was thinking earlier. I was like, in college, I didn't have the opportunity to, pledge with a fraternity. But now I feel like, as a Leadership Greensboro graduate, like I have this network of individuals that, we are family. It's their instant connection when you find out, oh, you graduated from Leadership Greensboro. And so you guys can, can connect with people in that aspect as well. But also for me, for someone who's not from Greensboro, this program allowed me to learn more about just the historical value of this community, whether it's from the civil rights era, just the different universities in Greensboro. So I was also able just to learn so much about the area because I definitely think it's important that, if you're going to work in a community, you need to know as much as possible about that community that you're working in and how you can definitely impact that community as well. So Leadership Greensboro was able to, provide me with that information as well. So anybody that's on the fence, I would highly encourage you to definitely apply because I definitely believe that, you won't be sorry, that you decided to go through this program.
Awesome. Jasmine, you want to pick that up?
Sure. If they were considering, I would say, why not? It's almost like getting a master's degree in community in a sense, because it covers so many facets. It covers leadership, it covers self development, it covers time management, which is a big thing. When I did my pre MBA or pre master's interviews with people who had theirs already, it was time management was a big part of it. But then also just the different social aspects, the political or municipal, community, diversity. It covers the whole gamut. So it's like a real hands-on master's program, but just based in the community. And to me, that's the realest and the best type of education that you can get, is education that you can put into action in real time. And of course, again, activating your life's purpose. I've been fortunate to be able to know what mine was prior to the program, but participating in Leadership Greensboro definitely enhanced that, and was able to get allow me more exposure to how I can further fine tune my strengths, but also further have a deeper connection with my purpose and yield better benefits for all. So that's what I would say I get out of it, but I got out of it, and why a person should apply. If you're looking to enhance your life and in various facets, why not?
I love it. How about you, Kelly?
At the end of the day, I come back just to the connections. And, if you don't do it, life could look different a year from now, but I guarantee you, if you do it, you're going to have 40 plus new friends, new connections, people that are rooting for you in your personal life. And, look at our class. We had weddings, we had people going through hardship, we had babies being born, and we bonded over all of that. And we were there on the sidelines when all that was going on. And still now, I think, you're basically getting a whole group of people that are here to cheerlead your success, your leadership growth, and just to have resources to bounce things off of. And for me too, this year was such a safe place, given all that had been going on in our world within this group, to explore feelings, thoughts, questions, to grow as a person, to challenge, to be very vulnerable and say, I didn't know that was going on in our community, or I didn't know that was a perspective. That's not something I've encountered. And so how much better are we to go forward when you're more well-rounded and when your eyes are opened and you can see through other people's eyes what this experience looks like. And so it's a rich tapestry that you're going to get in Leadership Greensboro. And so I think, again, just go for it. Don't question, just do it. Get a supportive employer and sign up.
And if I could add one thing, I definitely want to say, with anything that you do in life, you're going to get out whatever you decide to put into it. And so if you put your all into this program, you're definitely going to get a lot out of it. Because I could definitely say, for me personally, I've gained a whole lot just from going through this program. And so that's why, I'll scream from the mountaintops, just, for anybody to get involved with this program and just continue to seek for ways for you to grow as an individual and as a professional.
Awesome. Well, you all heard it here first. Heard from three outstanding leaders. Why Leadership Greensboro is worth that leap. I will say that just listening to you all's reflections about the program, it kind of further underscores our theme for the 2021 class year, Better Together. You all perfectly reflect that. Why it is so important to have community, why it is so important to have diverse community, and why it's important to collaborate and work together. It has been an amazing experience working with you all this program year. Getting to know you really over 2 years has been just incredible. I am definitely honored to call you program chairs and friends, and to have you in our community. You three, and including Gary, you four are probably some of the most connected people anyway, pretty rooted in our community. But to hear how and see how much you've done even since Leadership Greensboro is just has been an amazing opportunity. So I thank you so much for being here. to talk with us today. And I have no doubt that that anyone who's curious about Leadership Greensboro has learned a lot from you today. So thank you so much for joining us.
This podcast is brought to you by Trulian Federal Credit Union, a modern, mission-driven financial institution focused on the needs of its members, the businesses it serves, and our community. With 5 locations in Guilford County, including a dedicated commercial lending office at Friendly Center and a highly rated mobile banking app, Truliant makes it their business to help you grow yours. Visit Truliant.org for more information. You can find all of our episodes on YouTube thanks to our video sponsor, North State. Make sure to subscribe so you'll get new episodes delivered to your device each week. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at GSO Chamber. See you next time.